Do you think there's ever a chance we'll see you back in a squared circle?
No.
Never?
No.
Wow.
Never, ever.
CM Punk is in AEW.
Why you chose to go to AEW, not to return to WWE.
It kind of helped breathe life back into my love of professional wrestling.
Can I tell you a story?
I say this without any hyperbole. CM Punk was one of the biggest names in all of professional wrestling. And for a time being, he was the hottest commodity in the WWE. A man whose exit from the world of wrestling left an empty space in the hearts of fans worldwide. Wrestling fans would continue shouting into the abyss, chanting his name ritualistically at other wrestling shows, hoping that somehow their cries would summon him. They'd rant and rave about a return to the ring years and years after his absence. But they were relentless and they refused to give up, even when it seemed like their savior already had.
Every other person in our roster that you tortured for your own amusement.
See how long this goes, too. Not very long, that's what I thought.
You're just like CM Punk. You're all losers.
CM Punk ain't gonna interrupt me.
I would mop the floor with him, and trust me, Chicago, you need cleaned up.
The best in the world. But who can that person be?
CM Punk!
I don't believe he's in the tournament.
I tried to get him here. I'm sorry. He didn't want to show up.
Because you are a hell of a wrestler. You are a hell of a wrestler.
Even if CM Punk wanted to forget about wrestling, it was clear that wrestling wasn't ready to forget about CM Punk. Despite an early retirement, Punk still stayed busy, flexing his creative muscles by writing comics, starring in some low-budget movies, and even pursuing a career in MMA. For a time being, he also signed up as a Fox representative on WWE Backstage. A move that saw him not returning to work for the company, but rather reporting on that company. This would kind of be like if Superman retired and then decided to continue his day-to-day life as Clark Kent reporting on other superheroes. It's like, what are you doing, man? Get back out there. But wrestling fans would finally get the return they craved in August of 2021. And what is that age-old phrase?
Be careful what you wish for.
Because you might get it. As AEW Rampage made its way to Chicago, the rumor mill started to wind up once again. Claims that Punk had signed to All Elite Wrestling began to circulate and spread like wildfire. Unfortunately, that was a song and dance wrestling fans had come to know. At this point in time, Punk return rumors were kinda like Sasquatch sightings. Just a lot of talk and unfounded claims. But luckily, this time, the proverbial Bigfoot was found. In his hometown of Chicago, CM Punk made his entrance to his classic theme song and a roaring crowd shouting over. Grown men and women openly wept tears of joy at seeing the Second City Saint make his way to the ring. The whole arena was on their feet, giving their formerly fallen hometown hero a standing ovation. This moment was instantly iconic. Almost on par with the Pipe-On promo, just for the sheer fact of how much uncertainty surrounded Punk's future in the business. Punk addressed the audience and apologized to the fans in attendance for his lack of attendance. He'd then go on to subtly tear into WWE, claiming that he couldn't get better in the same place that made him sick. A point that kinda seems moot considering that Punk sort of worked with the WWE, albeit through Fox, right before signing with AEW, allegedly also turning down an AEW contract in order to do so. So while he spoke smoothly, his words did feel a little bit idle here. Not that I'm gonna fault a guy for making a part of his journey a part of his promo. Wrestling is storytelling, and he was telling his story. In this moment, I don't think it even really mattered what it was he was saying, because everyone was just excited that he was there saying it. While he received a warm welcome from those out in front of the cameras, behind the scenes it was a different story. Punk was now in a locker room filled with people he rubbed the wrong way on his way to the top. Unbeknownst to us at the time, unresolved past grudges plagued a potential beneficial present. But none of that mattered because the future was bright. CM Punk was back and all was right with the world. For now. He closed his first promo back by issuing a respectful challenge to Darby Allin for the sake of good old-fashioned competition. There was no antipathy between the two competitors, just a drive to outdo the other. And while the two did respect each other, that respect didn't stop either man from launching themselves at each other like they were heat-seeking missiles. Punk proved that in 7 years' time, the only thing that man changed was his attire. In a hard-fought victory, CM Punk won his first match back. CM Punk both gained a win and allies in Sting and Darby Allin. He'd continue to showcase his in-ring prowess by accumulating a little bit of an undefeated streak. But the first major feud Punk found himself in was against Eddie Kingston, who seemed to have some animosity toward Punk, brought on by prior history. Kingston claimed that at one point in time, Punk was a hero of his, but Punk judged him and looked down upon him. To which Punk retorted that it wasn't just him, it was the entire ROH locker room that judged him. The two aimed some pretty personal attacks at each other and their careers, which made the story seem as if it was based in reality.
Nobody wants you here, they never wanted you here. That whole locker room's afraid to say it, not me. So get out. Why don't you fight me at Full Gear?
Full Gear? A little bit high bar for you. I was thinking something like Elevation or Dark.
Fight me! Fight me! Fight me! Fight me! Don't fight me. Do me a favor. Quit again and leave for 7 years and don't come. Oh!
While the two were a little mismatched in terms of promo styles, they were evenly matched in terms of promo skills. There was an undeniable intensity in their verbal spars, which led them to becoming all-out brawls. No pun intended. There was no love lost when the two finally went one-on-one at Full Gear. This match felt different than any match Punk had since returning because it felt less like a wrestling match and much more like a fight with wrestling moves. For 11 minutes, the two absolutely disrespected each other and made good on their promise to brutalize the other. In the end, Punk got the victory to close off the feud. But I really wish that they would have went on a little bit longer. This War of Worlds, War of Words were always highly entertaining, and the problems between the two felt heated and legitimate. It didn't feel like one match would resolve the issue, so I was a little disappointed by that. Instead, Punk would move on to engage in a similar cultural clash with somebody else. Now, ever since Punk stepped foot in the door of AEW, myself and a large part of AEW's fan base wondered, not if, but when. When will Punk engage with MJF? AEW's homegrown golden boy. A master of the mic who had the gift of the gab and a knack for following up on his words, turning threats into warnings. Someone whose arms were long enough to box a self-professed god. Their paths finally crossed following a promo in which the Pinnacle's figurehead proclaimed himself to be the absolute best. As you can imagine, Punk, the self-proclaimed best in the world, took some issue with this. Showing up, getting in Maxwell's face, and then not even giving him the courtesy of a handshake. At the next Dynamite, the two met in the ring once again, but this time they exchanged words and traded jabs, with MJF claiming that Punk's AEW run wasn't as stellar as the star was once capable of, arguing that he was past his prime and that even at his best, he would still only be second best. Punk in turn mocked MJF's idolization of him, calling him jealous and noting that MJF had only managed to get as far as he had with the assistance of his alliance.
Cause I'm about to verbally finish you quicker than your UFC career. You can drop cute little pipe bombs all you want, cause I'm MJF and I drop nukes. I'm in your head. Probably has a lot to do with the fact that there's a poster of me on your wall. He's just a less famous Miz. This is no longer CM Punk. This is PG Punk. Because you might as well be coming out here preaching hustle, loyalty, and respect. You may claim to be the best in the world, but I'm better than you, and you know it!
Just as it seemed like the two were about to come to blows, MJF rolled out of the ring and took his exit, looking to get away from Punk altogether. But Punk continued to haunt and hunt MJF in the following weeks. Punk would dash MJF's dreams of an undefeated 2022, creatively costing him the match via disqualification. MJF, not looking to get his hands dirty, sent his lackeys to go after his rival, hoping to silence the voice of the voiceless. First, he'd send his insurance policy Wardlow after Punk in a losing effort. Both men had undefeated streaks leading up to this match, but in the end, only one of them would continue. But the victory came with a price, as Wardlow reluctantly injured Punk with multiple power bombs, as his boss instructed him. After Wardlow's failure, MJF sent his chairman, Shawn Spears, after the Second City Savior. MJF's appointed assassin would last all of 12 seconds in the ring with Punk before CM got the victory. It's now that I'm reminded that for as great as this angle was, the booking of it wasn't always as stellar. Punk just ate 6 powerbombs the week prior. He was shown to be injured. Then he just effortlessly beats the chairman of the Pinnacle in mere moments? This is kinda discrediting the whole stable here. Wardlow looks significantly less powerful, and Shawn Spears looks like a total chump. MJF continued to run down Punk and take jabs at some of the most public portions of his personal life, which Punk returned in spades. But this spirited debate was all but a setup, as the Pinnacle rushed to the ring and ambushed Punk. CM did his best to get to MJF and fight them off, but just didn't have the numbers to solve this equation in his favor. MJF proceeded to sit atop Punk in Punk's signature sit-down pose, assuring him that he'd see him in Chicago. In the two's first official meeting, MJF acted in complete cowardice running away from Punk. Yet despite the odds and the trajectory of the first bout, MJF managed to do the unthinkable and beat Punk, giving him his first loss within the company. Doing so not once, but twice technically. The ref would restart the match due to MJF's cheating ways, but it would be his cheating ways that earned him the victory the second time around anyway. Now at this point, MJF was a made man. If any star in AEW was ever elevated by Punk's involvement with the company, it would have to be MJF. Not that the guy really needed it. I think he has an undeniable talent and unmatched charisma. Even when he's at his worst, he has more fans than foes. This guy was always going to be a big deal, so long as he was granted screen time. But I think his feud with Punk really raised his stock at a quicker rate. It's not the moment where fans knew they had something special with MJF, but it is the moment that fans knew the company knew they had something special with MJF. Max would celebrate on Dynamite with his closest friends accompanying him. But his victory lap was cut short as Punk and the team of Sting and Darby Allin showed up to oppose the group, allowing Punk to challenge the man that he felt beat him to a rematch, that being Wardlow. MJF would instead challenge Punk to a tag team match against FTR, with the sole caveat that he couldn't team with Sting or Darby Allin in the match. And if Punk and his mystery partner won, Punk earned the right to face MJF in a rematch of his choosing. Later that night, Punk surprised the world by reuniting with a returning Jon Moxley, with the two former constituents picking up the victory. Following this, Punk cut what I truly think is one of the greatest promos of his career. Remembering Friedman's remarks,
"I'm going to be better than Piper in Portland. I'm gonna be better than CM Punk in Chicago."
Punk gives him the chance to prove himself in a match that both Roddy Piper and he himself competed in individually and created classics in. A dog collar match, ending the promo by asking Max to be his Valentine. Not just a reference to the then upcoming holiday, but calling back to Roddy Piper's opponent in that famous/infamous dog collar match, Greg the Hammer Valentine. How could you not love that wordplay? It just works on so many levels. He ended his promo by referencing Max's fandom for him one more time, but this time, it seemed to strike a chord with him. He gets teary-eyed and emotional, and instead of going off on a tirade the likes of which we've never seen, he instead recounts the day that he met CM Punk as a kid, and just how much it meant to him. He recalls being bullied on a daily basis, and that the one thing he had to look forward to during that time was getting to see his hero. Suddenly, MJF is coming off much more like a victim than he is a villain. Rethinking his actions, Punk attempts to apologize. It's a surprisingly touching moment between the two, until it isn't. After the two hug it out, MJF ambushes Punk with a Pinnacle, adding insult to injury as he wore a shirt with a picture of the two during the attack. Following a beatdown at the hands of MJF's buddies and a brawl that saw Punk bloodied up, MJF accepts Punk's challenge by quoting Punk himself.
"You stupid old man. You stupid
Stupid old man. I'm a snake.
The greatest thing the devil ever did
Was convincing the world he doesn't exist.
I am the
Devil himself.
To which Punk would respond by also borrowing a quote from his past.
I will become a monster.
To fight the monsters of the world. Because I'm CM Punk. And I'm better than you.
The stage was set for one hell of a grudge match. A victory feeling just as important as it would in any other title match. Punk entered the ring to the same tune that played him in, wearing the same attire he'd worn during his last major dog collar match in ROH, getting the message across that he was ready. And both men brought their A-game. As expected, the two burned the barn down, telling a story and writing it out in each other's blood. With the help of Wardlow, who betrayed his boss over constant abuse, Punk picked up the win to finally burn down that bridge and stop their paths from crossing. For now. Following his feud with MJF, Punk set his sights on championship gold, making his intentions known as he continued to rack up victories. Punk respectfully called out world champion Adam Page. The two were fan-favorite faces, so seeing them go head-to-head challenged the audience with who to cheer for. Despite their rivalry being born out of competition and the quest to be the best, Adam certainly did make it personal, taking a lot of offense to his opponent, cutting some pretty strongly worded and aggressive promos for a non-grudge feud. And while some of that was a little confusing, all of it was really compelling. Honestly, I think Adam Page cut some of his best promo work in the company against Punk, which is saying something because the guy's not a bad talker to begin with. Page wasn't throwing working punches with these promos. He tells Punk to his face that he doesn't respect him as a man or as a performer, and that he doesn't appreciate anything that Punk has done since he returned.
I will not be defending this championship against you. I will be defending all elite wrestling from you.
Like I said, man, I don't know why you're so angry.
Making some mentions toward Punk's views toward workers' rights while highlighting what he believed to be hypocrisy. We'll touch on that again at a later point. The usually polite Page refuses to shake Punk's hand, and when pressed on the issue, instead chooses to strike him down. When the two finally faced off, after a grueling battle between the company's best workers and main event players, Punk did the inevitable and won the AEW World Championship, cementing his legacy in the company with its most prestigious prize. Top Guy was always the spot that was well reserved for him. And you know what? He kinda deserved it. He was once again the hottest act on the brand, one of the most over performers and needle movers in the business at the time. He was on his way to becoming the face of the company. But unfortunately, when you're at the top, there's really only one place left to go. So if you'd be interested in seeing the second part of this two-part series, The Rise and Fall of CM Punk and AEW, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
I'm over here trying to listen to my CM Punk interview, dude.
I am vengeance. I am the night. And that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.